Today we're sewing the Heyday Dungarees. They are super cute and pretty easy. Let's get to it. Here are the pieces that I'm going to be using to create my dungarees. Because I'm doing my dungarees with two different fabrics in a split design, I decided to just go split on everything. These are the straps. One is going to have my fun button fabric and one is going to be that distressed black. These are the front and back pockets. I've cut 2 in the black and 2 with the button fabric. I'm also going to add a cute little tag on it. This is the bib pocket. I added 1/4 inch onto that middle part so that I can sew it together and then it'll be split as well. I'm also going to add this label on the inside just as a little cute reminder for myself. Excuse this view, but for my main pieces, I have my front pieces and my back pieces, and I've done it in the split as well. I made a pair of these dungarees a while ago with a friend of mine, and she showed me how to do the button closure because I didn't know how to do it. And because I was experimenting and I was doing this for the first time, I did it just as the pattern suggested, and my straps were just a little too long for my liking. So whenever I would put my button onto my closure, this would be left over and it would just dangle inside of the dungarees, and I don't really like that. For these new ones, I decided to shorten the straps. I took off 11.5 inches from the straps so that it could work best for me. Let's get our straps prepped. If you don't want to use buttons for your dungarees, then you're going to use the full length of your straps. For both straps, we're going to put them wrong sides up, and we're going to fold one of the edges 3/8 in, like that, and we are going to iron these down. Now that we've steamed this edge down, we are going to grab our strap and we are going to fold it right into the middle. I'm doing this to create a crease on the center. Another way to do it is to fold it and go to the ironing board and steam it down just so the mark is stronger. But I can see the mark, and you're going to grab one of the edges and you're going to bring it into that mark. I'm going to pin it just to keep it secure. After you're done one edge, you're going to grab the other edge and you're going to do the same. Now that you have both edges going into the center, you're just going to go ahead and fold your strap. Now that my strap is pinned down, I'm going to go to the ironing board and I'm going to steam it down just so it's easier for me to work with it. And then I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch down this edge right here. And then I'm going to go across and then I'm going to go back up on the other side. And I'm going to repeat this process with the other strap. Try your best to have this edge match up just because it's going to be visible. Now our straps are sewn on and we have a raw edge and a finished edge. So now we can put them to the side. I'm going to sew the seam of the bib pocket so it can just be one piece instead of two different pieces. So I'm going to put these right sides together. I'm going to my machine and I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch on this side of the pocket, not on the one that has that little cutout. Watch out for that. All right, it's sewn together. I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to go to my iron and I'm going to steam this seam open. Once I'm done steaming that open, I'm going back to the machine and I'm going to top stitch on this side and this side just so I can keep that seam down. All right, I've prepped my bib pocket and as you can see, I have done the top stitching and I did it 1/8 inch from that center seam. So you're going to grab your back and front pockets as well because all of these pockets will be prepared the same way. These next steps are best made next to your iron because you have to steam the seams down. So what we have to do with all of our pockets, we have to put it wrong side up, and we are going to fold this top edge by 3/8, and then you're going to steam it, and then you're going to fold it 1 inch, and you're going to steam it again. After doing that, you're going to top stitch on this line just to keep this down, and your pocket will end up with a nice edge. Now that all the pockets are prepped, I want to add my little tag on here without it being too noticeable from the outside. So I'm thinking that I want to add it onto this fold. So I'm going to unfold this, and I'm going to center it as best as I can. And what I'm going to do is I am going to tack it down on the sides and probably on the top. And then when I go to do the top stitching for my pocket, it'll be tacked to the bottom. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to do the top stitching for all of these pockets. Now my pockets are all prepped, and I decided to do some decorative stitching on the sides of the little tag, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. The next step to finish off these pockets is to bring in 3/8 of an inch from all these corners. So we're going to go back to the ironing board, and we're going to bring in all these corners at 3/8 of an inch all around. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the corners first, and then I'm going to bring in the sides. We're going to do the same thing for all pockets. So bring these corners in, and then bring all the edges in by 3/8 of an inch. All of my pockets are prepped, and we are going to grab the front and the back pockets, and our bib pocket we're going to put to the side for now. Now we need to find our front piece of the dungarees. In our pattern, there are marks letting us know where those front pockets go. So using that front pocket marker, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my pocket on the front of the dungarees. I'm going to start with one. So using my pattern piece, I have marked with some chalk where that pocket is going to go. And I'm going to grab my pocket. I'm going to use the button one for that. And I'm going to place that top part of my pocket onto this line as best as I can. I'm going to use these types of pins to just secure it in place. Try to keep your pocket as flat as possible so it's not bunching up on the edges where we need to sew it. This is where I want to add my little tag. So I'm going to place it and tack it down on this edge so that when I top stitch this, my little tag will be right there. I'm going to repeat this same step on my other front panel. Now that we've done our front pieces, we are going to repeat the same step on the back pieces of our dungarees. Now that our pockets are secured onto our dungarees, it is time to top stitch them in place. The pattern has 2 suggestions on how to stitch these down. The way that I do it is that I do a zigzag stitch on the top portion, because this is the one that will receive the most pressure, because we'll be like opening and closing it constantly. And then after I do that zigzag stitch that's pretty narrow on the top portion of the pocket, I go in and I do a straight stitch all around the border, and then I go all the way back up, and once I reach that top stitching line again, I start doing the zigzag yet again, and I back stitch and do that zigzag all over again. Again, it's just to secure this top part. I already know it works pretty well because I did it for the other dungarees that I made, and they have held up incredibly well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go do that with all 4 pieces of my panels. Now that our pockets are all sewn in, just wanted to show you real quick how I ended up doing that stitch. And from the back side, just because it's clearer, see, so I did that zigzag stitch a couple times on the top, and then I just did a single line of top stitching. So our next step is to put our front pieces together, right sides together. So we've put our front pieces right sides together, and we're going to sew from the top all the way down to the crotch point. I'm going to use some clips just to secure this together. The pattern suggests to sew with our regular sewing machine and then finish it off with the serger. Today I'm just going to use the serger to finish it off. Do this same step with your back pieces. Alright, I have done the serging to put these pieces together on both the front and the back pieces. So now what we have to do is that we have to open up our dungarees, and we are going to push the seam to one side. The seam apparently wants to go left, and we are going to go ahead and top stitch down this side and the other side all the way down. Pause for 1 second. My brain had a fart. I'm so sorry. So instead of top stitching both sides, just top stitch the side where the seam is going. The purpose of the top stitch is to keep the seam down. So for example, here, my seam decided to go over to the button side, and I have no purpose for the top stitch on the other side. So don't be like me, unless you want it to be, you know, symmetrical. Yeah, just, you know, top stitch where the seam is headed. That way your seam won't bother you and it'll stay down. All right, keep going. And we're going to do this in the front and the back piece as well. Now that we've done the top stitching, we need to find the top part of our overalls, which is where the bibs are. And we are going to work on the bib curves. So find the top of your overalls, and we're going to do this for the back and the front. We are going to go back to the ironing board, and these curves, we are going to fold them in 3/8 of an inch, steam them down, and then another 3/8 of an inch, steam them down, and then we're going to top stitch. So we are going to do this on all 4 curves. I have done the top stitching for the side of our bib curves. Now they're all nice and neat. Now it's time to grab the front panel of your dungarees and to also grab your bib pocket. And there is a placement line on the pattern that'll show you where it should go. Using the mark that's on your pattern, you're going to install the bib pocket the same way that we did the front pockets and the back pockets. Now that the bib pocket is installed, it is now time to work on the closure for the top. With your front panel wrong side up, we are going to work on the top of our bib. We're going to fold the top down 3/8 of an inch, steam it, and then we're going to fold it again 1 inch and 3/8 down and steam it again. Because I'm doing buttons for my dungarees, I can go ahead and stitch this down, being careful not to go over your pocket. So if it does go over your pocket, just bring it up just a little bit, just so you're safe and it doesn't catch the pocket and close it up for you. If you're planning on doing another type of closure for your straps, then I suggest you follow with your pattern. But because I'm doing buttonholes, this is what I'm going to do. The top part of my dungarees has been stitched down, and one thing that I did forget to do was add interfacing. It's a little bit important, but I forgot to do it. So before you stitch this down, add interfacing onto this piece. Because I forgot to add interfacing and I happen to have this open here, I'm going to grab a little piece of interfacing and I'm going to kind of put it in here to try and see if I can put some interfacing on there. But don't be like me and please add your interfacing before you stitch this down. I cut out 2 little pieces of interfacing and I'm going to do my best to put them in here. After I add the interfacing on here, I am going to actually close these sides up. Now it's time to work on the back bib. So grab the back part of your dungarees and put it wrong side up. We are going to do something similar to what we did with the front bib. So we are going to fold this top bib 3/8 of an inch down, steam it down, and then fold it another 1 inch down and steam it down as well. So I'm going to do that and come back. Okay, now that I have steamed that down, it's going to be easier to work with. So now we're going to grab our straps. With that raw edge, we're going to put it right under this fold. And we're going to clip it in place. Just so you can see, I'm placing the strap as far up as it'll go to that fold, and also as close to this side fold that we did, just so it's right on that corner. After pinning them in place, I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to top stitch right on this edge right here to secure them in place. Now that I've top stitched this down, I'm going to flip my dungarees and I'm going to pull the straps up without folding this up, but we are actually going to put a little bit of pressure on that and have the straps go up and pin them in place just so they don't move. The front should look something like this and the back looks like this. We are going to secure these in place doing a box cross on each of these straps. So we're going to sew a little square box right here. And then when we reach this corner again, we're going to pivot and make an X, go back up, make an X, and backstitch on this edge. We are going to do this process on both of these straps. And you're going to sew from the front side. So I've done the box cross on both of these. You can barely see this one, but there they are. So now it's time to put the front and back pieces together. Here's my back piece, and I have my front piece in my hand right now, and I'm going to put them right sides together. And what we're going to use to align is this corner right here. So we are going to pin the side leg edges all the way down. Now that we've pinned one side, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to go to my serger and I'm going to sew all the way down on both sides. One thing to note is that you should always sew from the top to the bottom because some fabrics have a tendency to shift, and you really want this top edge to be the one that's aligned because you can always fix the hem if you need to. So always sew from the top to the bottom. Now that the sides are sewn, it's now time to sew the inseam of our dungarees. So I'm going to match it up in the crotch area. And same thing that we did on the sides, we're just going to pin all the way down, and same on the other side. Now that I'm all clipped, I'm going to go ahead to the serger and finish this off. I am thinking about starting off in the inseam and going down one side, and then start over again on the inseam and go down the other side. I just want to make sure that everything is aligned properly. I have sewn the inseam of my dungarees, and I had to go over with my sewing machine because I didn't do a very good job with the serger, but no one's going to notice that because this will be on the inside. So now that both seams are complete, I need to hem my dungarees. Before hemming our dungarees, we need to put our buttons on there. So in our pattern piece, there are some marks that will let you know where the buttonholes go. So I'm going to go ahead and do my marks and create the buttonholes for my dungarees. The buttonholes have been created, and now I'm just going to open up the buttonholes so that I can put my buttons through them. So I will use my seam ripper, and I also have freight check. Because my buttonhole went a little bit over that, I'm just going to open it up maybe until here, and I'll just use this space to have my buttons go through. So carefully, I will use my seam ripper to open this up. So I've made the openings for my buttonholes. These will be the buttons that I will be using. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to flip them right side out, and I'm going to try them on so I can see where I would need to install the buttons on the straps and make marks on here so that I can install my buttons. I've marked where my buttons will be placed, and I also went ahead and marked the hem. And for me, I see that it's about 1 inch, more or less, that I need to take away from this. But I'm actually going to do the hem towards the inside. You can do it towards the outside if you want, but I prefer to do it inwards. I don't really like the look of the wrong side of the fabric being out. So once I'm done installing the buttons onto the straps, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hem my dungarees. My buttons are installed, and I have also hemmed my dungarees, and we are finished. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you create your own dungarees. I can't wait to see what you do. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to help you. See you in the next one.